What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our Big 12 football channel.
All right, we have shown you the 2020 schedule for the Oklahoma Sooners. Now we're going to give you their projected record based off of this schedule, based on the percent chance that they have to win each game. And keep in mind, these numbers are pretty conservative. We have a scale that we use that is not perfect because we're not putting an exact percentage on every game. It's just kind of grouping these games together. But we're going to go through here and let me show you those percentages before we get into the projection. If the game is a 99% chance to win, I'll have it as green. That's a game that they're going to be 20-plus point favorites in. 80% is a game where I think Oklahoma will be double-digit favorites. 60% a game where they're going to be favored by roughly a touchdown, 6, 7, 8 points, somewhere in that range. And then the 50-50 games are games that I could really see going either way. A game where I think Vegas will put the spread at 5 points or less. So that's the scale we're using. Again, it's not perfect. Some teams really, shouldn't be 60. They should probably be 70%. But this is what we have to work with. It's just for this series here that we're doing. So green games, 99%. We've got one of those, Missouri State. I think that's the only really guaranteed win for Oklahoma on this schedule. I mean, there are obviously plenty of other games that they should win, but that's the only guaranteed win, playing an FCS opponent there in week 1. So 99% chance, pretty much again a guarantee that they beat Missouri State. Let's move on to the next group of games. We're going to 80%. These are games, again, where I think Oklahoma will be double-digit favorites in. Army, I know Army played them really tough a couple of years ago, and it's on the road, but still you would expect Oklahoma, the more talented team, to be able to take care of business in this game. Army is, if you just compare the two teams last year, Oklahoma obviously was much better than Army. Kansas, same story there. Oklahoma was much better last year, and they are every year. And Texas Tech, they were kind of tough to figure out where I should put them, especially because that game's on the road. I'd probably put it more at like 75%. But we're going to go ahead and put it in this 80% range. And then we have the 60% games. Again, these are games where I think Oklahoma will be roughly a touchdown favorite. Tennessee coming up at home week 2. I think that will be a game where Oklahoma is favored clearly. Baylor as well. Iowa State on the road if this game was at home. Either way, I think this will probably land at 60%. TCU and West Virginia, those are the two games. If those were at home, I think you might could bump them up to 80%. But because they're on the road and because I expect those teams to be a little bit better, I'm going to put them here in the 60% range. And then Kansas State, of course, beat Oklahoma last year. The game is at home for the Sooners. Another game that I think is probably a little higher than 60%, but I think it best fits into that category. So you've got 6 games where Oklahoma, I think, will be favored by roughly a touchdown. But, again, those are games that they could potentially lose. And that leaves 2 50-50 games. You've got Texas, the game, of course, in Dallas, and then you've got Oklahoma State. To me, those are the 3 top contenders in the Big 12. I think Oklahoma is going to be favored against everyone else. So if you just went by and said that all the games they're favored in, they're going to win, that would leave 2 50-50 games. You split those, and you get a projection of 11-1. But we're actually going to average out these games at 60%, not 100%. And that makes a big difference when you're averaging out all the records. Again, it's not perfect. Some of these teams should probably be higher than 60%. I think Oklahoma did come out on the low end just because of that. And maybe we'll kind of tweak this, how we do this next year. But given the percentages, given the games that they have on their schedule, the projection for Oklahoma is 9-3. And to be clear, that is not a prediction. That's just a projection based off of the schedule. So that just shows you, while Oklahoma doesn't have the toughest schedule, they don't have any games they're going to be underdogs in. They only have 2 50-50 games. So it's not the toughest schedule, but it's still a schedule to where there are a lot of games that, they're going to be favored in, but they could potentially lose. All these games in purple, Tennessee, Baylor, Iowa State, TCU, West Virginia, Kansas State, they should win those games. They'll be favored in those games. But it's tough to win 6 games like that when you're only favored by about a touchdown. And the odds would have them probably losing a couple of those games and then splitting Texas and Oklahoma State. That's just what the percentages would say. Again, the projection here for Oklahoma at 9-3. I doubt anyone in the Big 12 is going to be higher than that. So they still might be projected to win this conference, but just, again, a competitive conference, a lot of games that will probably be pretty close. And because of that, the projection for Oklahoma in 2020 comes out to be 9-3.